Gente! Oi, pessoal, tudo bom? Welcome to this Q&A. I'm sorry I'm 2 minutes late. I had some issues with my internet. I hope everything is working now. Tudo bom? Oi, Alejandro, Jacob, Tom. Tudo bom? Margus. Okay, so... Whoops, I'm listening to my own voice. This is so weird. What's going on here? Okay, so I just solved that problem. Okay, guys, I'm also going to connect on Instagram so people from Instagram can also follow the live. Okay, here we go. Tudo bom, gente? How are you doing? Tudo bom, William? Okay, so now we're also live on Instagram. Tudo bom, gente? Welcome to this Q&A. I'm excited to be here with you today. If you are new to my channel, I teach this live Q&A once a month, usually the first Thursday or the second Thursday of the month. So I'm here to help you with your Portuguese, answer your questions. I teach this class in English because there are a lot of beginners that would not understand me if I spoke Portuguese only, but I'm here to answer your questions. If you have any questions, beginner level, advanced level, I'm here to help you, okay? Muito bom, gente. Olá. I'm looking for your comments and questions. If you have questions on YouTube, just type your question in the comments, and if I don't see it, you can just copy and paste again so I can see it. It's hard for me to read all the comments. And if you're watching me on Instagram, just use that. You see that at the bottom there is a question mark tool. Just click there and type your question there so I can see it, okay? Tudo bom, Nesta, Olivia? Muito bom, so good to see you here. Okay, guys, so let's talk a little bit. Think about the questions that you have. And while you think about your questions and type your questions for me, I would like to review a little bit the last lesson that I published on YouTube. So if you're new, I publish a new lesson every Tuesday on my YouTube channel. Every Tuesday at 5 p.m. New York time, and in this Q&As I like to review a little bit some topics and answer your questions. So the last video was really fun to make. It is something that Brazilians don't realize, and most people don't realize that Brazilians don't answer questions with the word yes. See? Isn't that funny? When I realized that, I was like, oh, that is so interesting. I'm not saying that we don't use the word sim. Of course, we use this word. It's a very, very common word. We use it all the time. But we don't use it the same way that we use the word yes in English. And it is very, very common to answer questions using different words. Most of the time, we just use the same verb of the question, and sometimes we use different words. Of course, you can say, if you want to say yes, you can say sim. But sometimes it sounds weird. It really depends on the context. It is really hard for me to tell you, okay, so you should say sin in this case, and you should say something else in this other case, because it really depends on the context. So I think you get these nuances of the language with practice and time, but I thought that it would be fun to share with you this particularity, these details from Brazilian Portuguese language. So I give you a lot of examples in the video. If you missed the video, if you have not watched yet, it is available on my YouTube channel. So go check it out. And if you have any questions about that topic, let me know. I'm here to answer your questions, okay? Então vamos lá. I'm gonna check the chat to see if you guys have questions. Oi, Daisy, tudo bom? So guys, why don't you speak Portuguese? Because not everyone understands Portuguese when you're learning Portuguese. Muito bom. But you guys, if you're looking for videos in Portuguese, I have almost 200 videos, 100% in Portuguese in my channel. So go check it out. A lot of videos, 100% in Portuguese. Muito bom. So a question from Nuru, how to sound more natural when speaking Portuguese, like better expressions. I always get stuck when responding to someone. Unfortunately, there is no magic trick for this. You will sound more natural the more you practice, you know. And of course, you can add some expressions. This last video that I made about how to answer questions will help you a lot to sound more natural when speaking Portuguese. So I recommend that you study that video and practice those questions that I asked in the video. But there are so many details that we could cover to talk about this. I think the most important thing is that you have to be patient, and the more you practice, the easier it gets and the more natural you will sound. And I recommend that you listen a lot to Brazilians speaking and try to imitate. You know, that's the best technique to sound natural. Just imitate the way that Brazilians speak. In the beginning, it will sound a little bit awkward, but with practice, you will feel, when you feel more comfortable, you will also sound more natural. Does it make sense? Because sometimes when you feel insecure, you don't have confidence to speak, you sound like a little bit robotic. When you feel confident and you feel better, you naturally sound more natural. I hope that makes sense. Nuru. Muito bom. More questions, guys. Oi, Ana, Anne-Marie, Alberto. Tudo bom? So Sabrina's asking if I'm okay. I'm totally fine. There's this huge hurricane that passed by New York. I am living in a place that is higher, so I only saw like a little bit of rain. Everything is fine. But I heard that in New York City is crazy. A lot of water, flood. I have some friends that had water into their houses. Crazy stuff. So I'm okay, thank you for asking, but I think it was pretty serious in some areas in the city. I hope everyone is okay. Muito bom. So one tip when you're looking to buy something or rent or buy property around New York City, look for places that are high, you know, because you have less chance of having flood problems. Okay, questions? So Marcos is asking about, você tem uma série brasileira para assistir no Netflix? Guys, this question is for everyone. What Brazilian series would you recommend for Marcos? I confess that I'm a little bit late with Netflix. I haven't been watching much, but my favorite Brazilian series is Coisa Mais Linda. So cute. Love it. It's beautiful. So that's the one that I recommend. I don't know about the other ones. I made a video about this. You'll find on my YouTube channel, like Brazilian series, and I made a compilation. I talk a little bit about some of them, so go take a look at that video. Muito bom. Que mais, gente? Questions? I'm reading your comments. It's really hard to see all the questions. So you see, Marcos, a lot of people are commenting and giving you tips, suggestions for a series, like 3%. Oi, Aliaga, tudo bom? Oi, Leandro. O Mecanismo, I haven't watched that yet. Muito bom. Oi, Roberto. VGTI is saying there's a technique to imitate sound. It's called shadowing. Yes. Don't know if you're familiar, but it's very common when learning Japanese. Yes, it is similar to the what I call imitation technique. It's just to imitate. But shadowing is more like to repeat right after trying to shadow that person. I do that a lot with French. I listen to a podcast and I repeat immediately. I don't even pause it. I just repeat everything that I listen. I repeat out loud, like trying to shadow the speaker. So that's a very interesting technique. But it's more intermediate, advanced level. If it is hard for you to repeat without pausing the sound, you can pause, like listen, pause, repeat, listen, pause, repeat. But it's easier for you if you can find someone who speaks at a slower pace. You don't even need to pause, just listen and repeat immediately. That practice, if you do that for 15 minutes a day, it will help you a lot to improve your pronunciation in Portuguese or any other language that you're learning. Muito bom. You know, I never thought about that, William. Quantas palavras você precisa saber para falar bem em português? That's a very good question. I should probably think about that. I would say about like 3,000 words. It's a lot, right? But you know, at a beginner level, if you know about 500 words, you can already talk about a lot of things. But I would say that to really have a conversation, 3,000 words. But this really varies a lot on the, you know, the kind of topics that you want to talk about and the complexity of topics that you want to talk about. That's a very interesting question. Muito bom. Que mais, gente? Questions, perguntas. Tem brasileiros aqui também. They probably do it, but Brazilians make certain sounds when speaking. So asking about if you make sounds when you're speaking, you mean like filling words or filling sounds? We do that a lot. I think that everyone does that in every language, right? You know, Brazilians do a lot but that's not something that I teach because that's not good. But yeah, Brazilians do that a lot. When you don't know what you're thinking, you don't know what to say, you could say, you know, and then it takes a few seconds to process. Interesting question, Sabrina. Muito bom. So a question from Jacob. Can you explain how to use que nem in place of igual correctly? So the short answer is you don't. If you want to speak correctly in Portuguese, we should not use que nem instead of igual a. This is an informal way of saying igual a. So according to grammar rules, we should not speak that way. We should not use this phrase que nem to make comparisons. But in colloquial language, a lot of people do that. So here I am again saying, you know, it's funny, Brazilian Portuguese, guys, we have the rules, we have the book and the grammar, and then we have a spoken language, which is a completely different thing. So in spoken language, a lot of people use que nem. Por exemplo, eu sou que nem minha mãe. Like, I'm like my mother. Eu sou que nem minha mãe. This is acceptable in spoken, colloquial, informal language, but it doesn't follow the grammar rules. The correct way of saying this would be eu sou como minha mãe. I'm like my mother. Eu sou como. The word como is the best one. I recommend you use that word to make comparisons, to say I am like that or this is like that. I would use the word como. C-O-M-O. That's correct, simple, right? Just one word, very easy to use. Eu sou como minha mãe. I'm like my mother. Okay, so I recommend that instead of que nem. People use a lot of que nem, so it's okay if you use it in spoken language, but if you want to speak correct Portuguese, I recommend you use the word como, tá bem? Good question, Jacob. Muito bom, gente. So many questions. I hope I can see all your questions. If I don't see your question, you can just copy and paste again so I can see it. Muito bom. Muito bom, gente. All right. I'm seeing a question here on Instagram. So it's a question from Sean. Oi, Sean. Na sua opinião, qual é o melhor método para aprender português sozinho? I love this question. I made some videos about this because there are so many methods and techniques that you can use to learn Portuguese by yourself. I think that the best way is not choosing just one method, but many techniques, many different platforms and tools, and the combination of all those tools will help you a lot. So for example, I would recommend you find a good YouTube channel or a couple that you really like and follow them regularly. But when you watch a YouTube video, it is important that you watch it not passively. Don't just sit down and watch it, like really study the video and make notes and do the exercises. And in addition to that, I recommend you follow podcasts. It is really, really important to listen to the language as much as possible. So follow some podcasts that you like. It is also important to choose content that is that fits your level, right? If it is too hard or too easy, you will feel discouraged. And in addition to that, you could find books that could help you. And courses, if you were willing to. There are online courses that is like, even though you're having the help of a teacher, you're also studying by yourself. Like my courses, they are a mix of both. So they're part of the course you have to study by yourself, but you also have support from the teachers. So I gave you YouTube podcasts, books, and online courses. And what else, guys? You can, if you're listening to this, also give Sean some tips on how to learn Portuguese by yourself, what techniques and methods do you use. I also highly recommend using apps, but my favorite app is Anki Web, because I like to add my own cards instead of just learning with what the apps, the cards that the apps give you. I like to add my own phrases and sentences that I want to learn. But all those apps in conjunction with I don't think that you can learn Portuguese or any other language just with an app, unless it is like an amazing app. But the ones that I know, they're good for learning vocabulary. So they're good tools to use together with other things, right? So I gave you a lot of information. And also I made some videos on this. On YouTube, you'll find some videos that I created. Go look for the list that I have on my YouTube channel called Tips or Useful Tips. I made a series of videos with different ideas and tools that you can use to learn and study by yourself at home. Muito bom. Que mais, gente? What other questions? So I see some tips from here, like Sabrina's recommending to watch real interviews in Portuguese. They're more authentic and you learn a lot of new words. Yeah, so that's a very good tip, Sabrina. And I do have some interviews on my channel, so go check it out. I have like a playlist called Conversations, and they are interviews with other Brazilians, and we speak more naturally. It's very interesting to learn Portuguese, and I added 2 subtitles so you can compare Portuguese and English. Okay, so moving to another question. This is a fun question. VGTA. What is the meaning of tá when you're following a conversation? So we use this a lot. This is also like a feeling word. Tá, it is short for está, the verb. And the verb está in this context, it is short for está bem, like you are agreeing with the person. Okay, it means okay. Tá. Okay, tá, I got it. Okay, está bem. So it's a short phrase. It would be short for está bem. All right, okay. Muito bom. We use that a lot in Portuguese. Muito bom. Excelente. Looking for more questions. Question from Ashu. What is acabar de? So this verb acabar is interesting because it can have 2 different meanings. The verb acabar means to finish, to end. But when you use this verb with the preposition de, acabar de, and then you add a verb in past tense, it means I just did that. Então, por exemplo, if you want to say, I just got here, you should say in Portuguese, eu acabei de chegar. So usually it is commonly used in past tense, right? Because you're talking about something that you just did. You just did, right? Eu acabei de chegar. We do that a lot in Portuguese. So acabar de with the preposition de plus a verb in past tense, it has this meaning, okay? But if you say, eu acabei meu almoço, I finished my lunch. So if without the preposition de, the verb acabar means to finish, to end. Haver de, this is a formal way of saying ter de, which means have to. Have to. But the verb haver is a more formal verb. We don't use that much in colloquial language. It's more common in written language. Maybe in Portugal is more common as well. In Brazil, we don't use that much. Muito boa pergunta. Good questions. Leandro. Yeah, you can use all these tips to learn any language, actually. English, any other language. That's good. Muito bom. Looking for more questions, guys. Yeah, so Joseph is also recommending you find someone to practice with, a Brazilian. You know, there's many websites that could help you with that. I don't remember the names now. I think Hello Talk, you can find like language partners. They're not teachers, but they're people that are looking for language partners to you know, you can help that person with English and they will help you with your Portuguese. That is a good thing to do as well, if you can find someone to help you with your Portuguese. Like, how often should you practice Portuguese with a Brazilian on Skype? Or it really depends on your time and availability. I would say that once a week would be good enough. It is hard to have more time than that, right? But of course, the more the better. But I would say that if you have someone to practice with once a week, it's good. That's what I do. Like I practice French once a week, and it's enough for me to maintain, so I don't forget. But it's if you're learning, if it is not just to maintain, I recommend that you study like every day a little bit, and then you practice with someone once a week. That would be good. Good combination. Question from Jessica. Oi, Jessica. Will the 30-day challenge will still be available even after being over? Yes. So this challenge I created, it will be, I'm not going to remove it from the website. I'm going to leave it there. You can take the challenge whenever you want. If you have not joined the challenge yet, I recommend you do it. It's super fun. It's very complete. It will give you a lot of tips to learn Portuguese or just review your Portuguese in 30 days. And I did this challenge with you during this month of August. It finished today. Today is the last day I'm publishing the video on Instagram. And I invited you to do it together with me. But even though I finished the challenge, you can do it yourself. And if you post, you can do the exercises on the website, or you can post it on Instagram. And if you tag me, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to give you some feedback. Okay, so you can do that and use Instagram. The easiest way to get feedback from me is using Instagram, because if you tag me, I'll take a look at it. And if you post it on the website, there are too many comments. It's really impossible for me to read everything. But if you don't want to publish a video, I recommend you do practice and at least do the challenge in writing. Okay, you can do that on the website. So it's not mandatory to use Instagram. It's just a fun way to do the challenge, you know, and practice, and to record a video that's very challenging as well, right? So I recommend you do that if you can, but there is no timeline, there is no deadline. You can start the challenge today if you want. Okay, it is available on the website. Just sign up. It's completely free. You have access to the material, videos, and a lot of tips on how to complete the challenge. Muito bom, Jessica. And to find the link for the challenge, just go to my website, speakingbrazilian.com/desafio. Desafio means challenge, or you just click on free resources and you'll also find the challenge there. Muito bom. I see some questions here on Instagram. I recommend you use the question mark tool, because it's really hard for me to read your comments. So click on the question mark and type your question there. So I'm saying here, it's really hard to pronounce your names sometimes, guys. Filhos dele ou seus filhos. So both ways are used. You can say this dele, dela is actually means of him or of her. So there's a different way of using to the possessive pronoun in Portuguese. So if you mean his kids, you could say os filhos dele ou seus filhos. But it is important that the word seus, concorda, should agree with the word filhos, and the word dele, dela, should agree with ele or ela. So I talk about this. There's a video about this topic on my YouTube channel. So look for it. It's possessive pronouns. I talk about all the details related to these little words. Tá bem? O que mais, gente? Mais perguntas? What else? So question from Aliaga. Virginia, quando usamos beleza, topar e por gentileza? Oh, okay. So these are very different words. Beleza, this is a fun word. We use that a lot when you mean like, okay, awesome, great. It means beleza. Also, sometimes when you meet a friend on the street and you want to say, hey, what's up? You could say, e aí, beleza? E aí, beleza? It's a very informal way of greeting someone. Don't do that with people that you don't know, but with friends, it's totally acceptable. E aí, beleza? Hey, what's up? Topar means, do you agree to do that? It's a very informal way of saying, você topa? Do you agree? Let's do this. Você topa? I cannot think of other example right now with the verb topar. And por gentileza, it's a very actually formal way of saying por favor. It's a very polite way of saying por favor, please. So you could say por favor, it's the more common way, more used way of saying please. It can be used in any situation, formal or informal. Por favor is always acceptable, and you should use this word all the time, por favor. And por gentileza also means, por favor also means please. It means like, if you are so kind to do this for me, you know. Por gentileza, it's a little bit more formal, but you can also use it. Muito bom. Good questions, so many details. Muito bom. What else, guys? What other questions? Okay, reading your comments. Let me see here on Instagram. Oh, that's a fun question. Call 868. Do you find you don't understand some Brazilian slang not living in Brazil? You know, even when I did live in Brazil, I did not understand all this slang people used because I confess, guys, I don't like slang. I don't like slang. I don't use slang much. I like, you know, Brazilian, I like Portuguese language. It's a beautiful language. I don't use slang much. I have nothing against it. And, but it is hard for me to teach some slang because it sounds too much for me. So even when I lived in Brazil, I was not like the best person to teach you slang. So I'm familiar with the most common ones, but the ones that are very particular from some regions, I'm not familiar with those kind of language, of slang. But I've been always like that, you know. And one interesting thing about slang, I don't know if that is like that in the other countries, but in Brazil, slangs, they are very regional. So slang that is used in São Paulo is different from slang that is used in the South, and it's different from slang that is used in the Northeast. And I lived in many places, so for me, using slang never made sense, because when I moved to another city, people would not understand slang from that other city, so I would just sound weird using slang. Slang is something usually very regional. Of course, there are some slangs that are common in the entire country, but there are a lot of slang that are usually just used in one specific region. So yeah, fun question. Okay, vamos lá. Looking for more questions. Eu posso dizer qual é para estranho? Yeah, this is too informal to use with a stranger, okay? Qual é? Qual é? Even with my friends, if a friend tells me qual é, I would feel like that's too much. This is too informal. Yeah, so only use it with friends. E aí, qual é? It's very, very informal. Questions. Muito bom, gente. Ok, this is an interesting question from William. Oi, William. Virginia, para o tempo futuro, é bom usar o verbo ir mais infinitivo do verbo usar? Ou é mais comum conjugar o verbo no futuro? Por exemplo, eu vou ir ou eu irei? This is a good question. The two tenses are correct, grammatically correct, and they are acceptable. But in colloquial spoken language, it's much more common to use the compound tense, the eu vou. But it's interesting the example that you gave. This is the only case that we don't use the eu vou ir. Although it is correct, in Brazil, usually we don't use the verb ir 2 times. You just use it once. So if you want to say, I'll go tomorrow, you just say, eu vou amanhã. You don't have to say, eu vou ir. You know? It is not wrong. It's just that we just don't speak like that in Brazil. But all the other verbs, it is much more common to say, por exemplo, I'll travel tomorrow. Eu vou viajar amanhã. It's much more natural than eu viajarei amanhã. Eu viajarei sounds formal. Okay, so the regular future tense, with the one that you find in the books, it actually sounds more formal. The most common one that we use all the time, and it is also correct, it's not wrong, but it's a compound tense. It is the one used with the verb ir plus the main verb in its infinitive form. You can use that in any situation, formal and informal, and it is correct, and that's the one that Brazilians use the most. I usually mix them both. I use both because I like to use a more formal language once in a while. But if you're talking with friends and family or talking with Brazilians, you see, pay attention to Brazilians speaking. You see that we use the compound one with the verb ir plus infinitive much more than the other one. The other one sounds a little bit more formal. The meaning is the same. There's no difference in the meaning. Boa pergunta, William. Muito bom. Looking for more comments, questions. The hardest dialect to understand. You're talking about Brazilians' accents. That really depends on where you're from. And your also, for instance, if you're learning Portuguese as a second language, but your teacher is from São Paulo, you probably find all the other accents a little bit more difficult to understand. And if your teacher is from the Northeast, you'll probably find the other accents a little bit. It's just a matter of getting used to the accent, right? So I really don't know which one would be more difficult to understand because I think it really depends on what you are used to listening. Muito bom. Mais perguntas? Marcos is asking a question. Not sure que grande é o erro se eu usar a preposição em, na, no, incorreto. It really depends because this preposition is correct, but you have to know when to use it, right? Because em means in, on, or at. So in every situation that you want to say either in, on, or at, if you want to say in, on, or at, you can use the preposition em. Na you use before feminine nouns, and no you use before masculine nouns. I have a video about this on my YouTube channel. Go check it out, Margus. I explain all the details about this preposition. Looking for more questions, guys. Sometimes I have some funny comments, that's why I'm laughing. Come on, more questions. Do you know a place where I can practice speaking? Yes, I know. My program called Speaking Brazilian Academy is the best place to practice Portuguese. I offer conversation classes every week in small groups. It's a membership course. It's a place exactly to practice. That's why I created the academy. It's not a regular course. We don't talk about grammar and other stuff. We just practice conversation. Sometimes we read something or watch a video and then talk about it. It's an amazing program for those who already have studied all the content and want to practice conversation. This course that I'm talking about is only for intermediate and advanced level students. If you are a beginner student, you should start from the beginning, and all the other courses that I offer also have speaking practice. But if you're looking for a place to practice without joining any course, there are some apps available that you could use to find a speaking partner. Do you guys recommend any place to practice speaking without joining a course, without having a teacher? Guys, let me know in the comments. I think Hello Talk, I've heard, but I never used it, so I don't feel comfortable recommending it because I'm not sure if it is good or not. Mandaira Portuguese. Good question. I have no idea. I would have to check that out, André. I think I answered that question already. Muito bom. Guys, I have so many questions today. Muito bom. Okay, I'm just scrolling down to see. So what is the difference between eu tive e eu tinha? So here your question is, what is the difference between perfect tense, pretérito perfeito, and imperfect past tense, pretérito imperfeito? Because eu tive is something, it means that's something that happened once. Eu tinha, you're talking about a habit in the past or describing the past. So I recommend you look for my video. This is a long topic, so it's hard for me to explain like in 1 minute. I recommend you look for my videos on pretérito perfeito and pretérito imperfeito. So we have two past tenses in Portuguese, and it is tricky for those who speak English because we don't have that in English. If you speak Spanish or French, we also have that in those languages. So it's perfect tense and imperfect tense. That is the difference. And just saying eu tive, eu tinha is hard to tell the difference. We need context to really see the difference. Muito bom, gente. So many questions. I'm looking here also on Instagram to see. Okay, so many questions. I have one question here from you Rhythm. You mentioned you live in many areas. Do you teach standard Brazilian Portuguese? Or do you have accents for standard area? My accent is a little bit mixed, and it's not strong from one area exactly because of that, because I lived in many different places. I would say that my accent tends to be more from São Paulo because I lived there for a long time before I moved to New York. But it's definitely mixed. I can see like sometimes my R's, they change a little bit. I try to teach my students a more like standard, but there's no standard Portuguese. That it's hard to tell that because what is standard Portuguese from São Paulo? That's not a nice thing to say. How about like people who live in the Northeast? They would think that their Portuguese is the standard one, right? So I don't like to say that I teach standard Portuguese. I teach Brazilian Portuguese, that's for sure. My teachers, they are from different places. I have a teacher from Rio de Janeiro. I have one teacher from a small São Paulo city, so their accent is more very specific from their area. And I have two teachers from São Paulo city, which is a different accent. So I try to have teachers from different places, but the language that I teach, of course, is the most standard one. I don't teach regionalisms. But the accent you get, you have your own accent, so don't worry about accents now. I only recommend you think about accent when you are at an advanced level, because when you're a beginner, you have so much to worry about. You don't really can control your accent. You have your own accent, which will be a mix of Brazilian Portuguese and your native language. So don't worry about that for now, okay? When you're advanced, you can think, okay, if I want to learn this accent, then you maybe can practice with Brazilians from that area, or maybe hire a teacher from that place. So yeah, I hope I answered your question. Muito bom, gente. Okay, so I have to end the Q&A. It's getting late. Let me see one more question, and then I will go. Can you give me? I didn't get this question. Can you give me some of the common verbs that take li? You're talking about the word li. I wouldn't worry about that because we don't use that much in spoken language in Brazil. It's a formal pronoun. So this question from Luis, that's a very interesting one. I am going to make a video about that. It is a complex topic to answer in this Q&A because it is long. It's going to take a long time to explain. But it's uncountable pronouns, right? It means like some, usually, or algo means something, and alguma means some, and then you have to add a noun right after. But the translation into English is not always that. It changes depending on the context. So it's a little bit complicated to explain those words, but I am going to make a video about that soon so you can have your questions answered. Muito bom, gente. Excelente. So many questions. I'm gonna answer one last question. Let's see if I can find a good, useful question here for everyone. No. Muito bom. So, one question for Christopher. I'm 59. Would you say it's too late to learn Portuguese? No, it's never too late to learn anything. And 59, you are young. You have many years ahead of you. You just have to, if it is something that you like and you really want to do, of course it is not too late. Of course it should be fun, right? It should be something that you would have fun doing, right? Not something that would be a struggle for you. So I recommend you take this lightly and learn for fun. I think you would love, and I think I have many students your age and older, and they love learning Portuguese and they speak Portuguese. After a while they speak very well. So don't feel discouraged. You can learn a language at any time. Of course, that if you have a background, if you have learned other languages before, that will help you a lot and it will be easier for you. If it is your first time learning different language, a foreign language, it will be a little bit harder for you. But in either way, I think it is worth trying if it is something that you would like to do. Boa sorte, Christopher. Okay, gente, thank you so much for joining me today. I usually spend like 30 minutes with you, but today we had so many interesting questions that I decided to stay a little bit longer. So this is a funny question. Tem cuscuz nos Estados Unidos? Guys, couscous, I love couscous. It is a very traditional dish from northeastern Brazil. Yes, you know, you can find there are some Brazilian markets in the US, so I can find, but it is not easy to find. You have to look. I think you mean couscous from the Northeast, right? That one that like a corn cake. I love that. So good. Gente, adorei ver vocês. It was a pleasure to be with you today. And I'll be here again on the first week of next month. So if you don't want to miss my next Q&A, be sure to sign up for my newsletter. You can sign up on my website, speakingbrasilian.com, and I always send a notification so you don't miss my Q&As, tá bem? Beijo grande e até a próxima. Tchau, tchau. Tchau, gente.